Disclaimer: this content is intended for a mature audience only. Viewer discretion is advised. The room is hushed. Light filters through half-drawn curtains, painting the rug in pale gold. She lies on her stomach, shoulders tense, breath quiet and even. Her thoughts whisper between heartbeats. He said he'd just massage her. A simple promise. And yet when she welcomed him close, opened her legs as if an invitation, everything felt different. There is no judgment here, only the soft tension of trust mingling with something more. She is Layla, 20-something, heart full of hope, soul laced with longing. Her husband, Imran, his hands warm and deliberate, caring, but with a shadow of something unspoken in his gaze. They've shared years of soft routines, morning smiles, shared coffee, quiet talks under the hum of late-night lamps. But tonight, there is a subtle shift in the air. The atmosphere is tender and heavy with yearning neither has named. They sit close now. Her pulse thunders in her ears, but she breathes, reminding herself, this is safe. This is love. She recalls the comfort of his touch over her shoulders, the gentle pressure that eased the knots in her back. Yet when the promise came, I'll just massage you, that careful simplicity seemed to lift, like a veil dropping. And in that moment she knew, something new was awakening inside her, something longing. Every movement is slow. His fingers trace along her calf, her thigh, the hush between them stretching. She can feel the careful control in his hand, the patient rhythm. Her body responds before her mind catches up, soft warmth rising, breath growing shallow. She watches the details, the way the light catches the line of his jaw, the quiet crease at his brow when he's concentrating on giving comfort. There is no shame in this room. Only trust. Only the gentle pull of desire balanced with devotion. She holds her breath, senses him pause, skin against skin. And in that silence, she feels your heartbeat, Imran's heartbeat, all the tenderness and question that neither of them has spoken. But then, just as the moment deepens, something flickers in his eyes, hesitation, longing, respect? She isn't sure. And before she can name what's rising between them, the world shifts, a door gently closes, footsteps echo. The massage, the intimacy, remain incomplete. The scene holds, suspended, breathless. Layla didn't move. The echo of the closing door faded slowly, like the last note of a song neither of them wanted to end. Imran's hands lingered, warm, still, not pressing forward. He wasn't rushing. He never did. But this time, something unspoken hung between them, more present than touch itself. She wondered if he could feel it too, the question that curled beneath her skin. This wasn't about lust. It wasn't about a single night. It was years of holding back layered into a single moment. All those times she'd watched him laugh with his friends but retreat quietly when things grew too personal. The way he always turned off the lights before they slept together. As if he loved her best in shadows. Imran had grown up with careful hands and quieter emotions. His mother had taught him that real love was restraint, that gentleness wasn't weakness. And he had honored that, even when his heart wanted more. He never pushed. Never asked. But now, as he traced a soothing line up her thigh, she felt the tremor he tried to hide. He was holding back, again. But she didn't want him to. Layla had spent most of her 20s searching for someone who saw all of her, the softness, the strength, the scars. Imran had seen more of her than anyone else. But even with him, she sometimes wondered, did he see the woman she was becoming, or just the one he married 3 years ago? Their marriage was built on trust, but trust wasn't the same as vulnerability. Not always. And tonight, in this golden light, she didn't want to be seen just as his wife. She wanted to be chosen again. Not out of duty or rhythm, but out of desire. Imran, her voice cracked slightly, barely a whisper. He paused, hands still on her skin. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Because she could feel it in his silence. He heard her. And just when she thought he might say something, break the quiet with the truth they both carried, his hand left her leg. Slowly, deliberately. He stood up, eyes unreadable, breath caught. "I'll get the oil," he said, but his voice didn't match the calmness of the words. And when he walked out, the room felt colder without him. Layla sat up slowly, her skin still humming from his touch. The air in the room had changed, quiet, yes, but now laced with questions. She pulled the blanket closer around her, not for warmth, but for something else. Protection? Modesty? She wasn't sure. In the silence, she thought back to a year ago, the night she told Imran about the miscarriage. How he had held her for hours, never once asking for details, never blaming, never naming the ache. He had loved her gently, fully. But from that night onward, something in him had shifted. A softness became distance. He still brought her tea every morning. Still kissed her forehead. But he hadn't touched her like this, hadn't really looked at her this way, since. She had wondered, quietly, if he blamed her. Or worse, if he blamed himself. Down the hall, she heard the cupboard open, the clink of a small glass bottle, almond oil, maybe, the one he used when she had migraines. She imagined him standing there, shoulders heavy with hesitation. Was this just a massage to him? Or was he battling the same weight in his chest? Imran leaned against the kitchen counter, gripping the small bottle tighter than he needed to. The guilt never left him. He had been the one who said, "We'll try again when we're ready," but every month since, he had pulled away. Not because he didn't want her, he wanted her in ways that terrified him, but because touch had begun to feel dangerous. What if wanting led to grief again? And yet tonight, when she let him touch her, when she opened herself not in lust but in trust, something had cracked. He saw her not as fragile or broken, but as whole. As beautiful. As his. He returned to the room quietly. She hadn't moved. Their eyes met, and for the first time in months, neither looked away. Still, he hesitated. Sat beside her. Poured the oil into his hands slowly, warming it between his palms. She watched him, heart pacing. "I don't want to hurt you," he murmured. "You won't," she whispered. "Not unless you keep holding back." And with that, the silence between them shifted, not breaking, but bending, like a bridge slowly forming. The oil in his palms shimmered as he sat behind her, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. The room was quiet enough to hear the soft ticking of the wall clock, but everything inside them was moving, fast, urgent, wordless. Layla's breath faltered as she felt the first touch again, Imran's fingers tracing a slow line between her shoulder blades. Not rushed. Not hesitant. But aware. His hands moved gently, reverently, like he was remembering her body all over again, but this time, not as a lover reclaiming space. As a man honoring what he had nearly forgotten, her softness, her strength, the trust in her silence. She closed her eyes, but her mind didn't still. She wanted to melt into the moment, to let it just be comfort. But something deeper rose up, how long she had felt invisible even while being loved. How many nights she had turned her face toward the wall, listening to him breathe beside her, wondering if he still wanted her or if they were just becoming echoes of who they used to be. "I miss us," she said quietly, surprising even herself. The words trembled in the air. Imran froze for a second. His hands paused just beneath her neck. "I didn't know," he replied, voice low. "You never said." Layla turned to face him, her eyes glossy but not broken. "You never asked." He looked away then, and for the first time, she saw it, not indifference, not distance, but fear. Deep, vulnerable, male fear. The kind they rarely speak of. The fear of failing the woman you love. Of not knowing how to touch without risking more hurt. "I thought I was protecting you," he said. Maybe I never needed that kind of protection, she replied, barely above a whisper. Maybe I needed to feel wanted, to be held as me, not as something fragile. The silence that followed didn't collapse, it thickened, like the air between two storms. He reached for her hand, finally, and held it to his chest. His heartbeat was fast. Unsteady. She felt it, and something inside her pulled taut. They weren't just close now. They were dangerously close to everything they'd been avoiding: touch, truth, tenderness that could either heal or break them. Imran still held her hand to his chest, his eyes closed now as if grounding himself through the rhythm of her presence. Layla could feel the weight behind that silence. But before she could speak again, his voice broke through, hoarse, unfamiliar. "I got a job offer," he said quietly. Layla's brows knit. "Where?" "Dubai. 6 months contract." "I wasn't going to take it. I didn't even plan to tell you." His eyes opened then, meeting hers. "But I've felt so far from you. I thought maybe space would help." She pulled her hand back gently, her breath catching. "Not out of anger, but confusion. You were going to leave without even asking me?" "I thought maybe I already had," he replied, the confession tasting bitter on his tongue. "You've been here beside me, but I've felt like a stranger in my own home." Her voice was steady, but it trembled just beneath the surface. "Then why touch me tonight?" "Because for a moment, you let me in again. And I realized I didn't want to leave. But it might be too late. I've spent so long being careful around you, I forgot how to be real with you." Layla stood then, slowly, the blanket slipping down her arms. Her figure was soft in the low light, but her presence, unmistakable. Strong. "You still don't see it, do you? I never needed distance. I needed you to fight for me. To stay." Imran looked up at her like he was seeing her fully for the first time, her pain, her patience, her refusal to shatter. She wasn't asking him to stay out of guilt. She was asking him to choose her again, not as wife, not as routine, but as a woman who still burned for the life they hadn't finished building. The air grew heavier. She sat back down, closer this time, her knee brushing his. "You've been protecting me from your grief. But that isn't love, Imran. That's fear." And with that, the room felt suspended again, this time not by touch, but by the truth unraveling between them. A decision hung in the air, unspoken but unavoidable. The silence stretched, but this time it didn't ache. It allowed something else to emerge: stillness, clarity. Imran looked up, the weight in his eyes melting into something rawer, something real. "I thought going away would fix me," he said, voice low, almost boyish. "But maybe I was never broken. Maybe I just forgot how to hold you without holding my fear first." Layla moved closer, her hand reaching for his, not to pull him back, but to steady herself. "You didn't forget," she whispered. "You just got tired." "So did I. But love isn't about never getting lost. It's about choosing to come back." He leaned forward, their foreheads touching gently, breaths shared in the narrow space between them. "I still see you, Layla," he said, the words trembling on his tongue. "Not just as my wife, but as the woman who held me when I had nothing to give." She smiled, soft, broken, beautiful. "Then stay. Not out of guilt. Not out of comfort. Stay because you still want the life we imagined." And then came the twist, delicate but sharp. "I kept something from you too," she murmured. His eyes lifted, wary but open. "I had a second miscarriage," she said. 2 months ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to lose you again." Imran's breath caught. He reached for her face, cupping her cheek like she might disappear. "Layla, why didn't you?" "Because you were already slipping away," she whispered. "And I didn't want to be the reason you ran faster." The room folded around them then, grief, love, regret all crashing in without noise. He pulled her into his arms, holding her fully, not with caution, but with knowing. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. This time, they weren't avoiding the past. They were holding it together. Outside, the night deepened. But inside, something healed. Not with fireworks, not with sweeping gestures, just two people remembering how to stay when it matters most. The room didn't glow with epiphanies. It softened. Later that night, they sat on the floor beside the bed, 2 cups of mint tea cooling between them, legs barely touching, but hearts closer than they had been in months. No loud promises. No perfect endings. Just quiet breathing. Shared space. The beginning of something honest. Imran reached for her hand again, not as apology, not out of habit, but as a choice. She let him. And this time, the silence between them felt like peace. They talked. About Dubai. About grief. About how sometimes love becomes quiet not because it's gone, but because it's waiting for both people to return. And tonight, they had. Layla leaned her head on his shoulder, her voice a hush against his skin. We're different now. He nodded. But we're still us. Not the same us they were when they married. Not the version built only on laughter and soft beginnings. This us had cracks. But it held more light because of them. The morning would come, and with it, 100 small choices: how to forgive, how to try again, how to rebuild. But for now, in the hush of this golden-lit night, they rested. Still healing. Still hopeful. Still home. Sometimes the most powerful kind of intimacy is simply choosing to stay.